Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious. Oh, she did do it. All right, now you're all wondering what the hell are these things?
We're crazy.
Okay, so I think you guys all know who I am by this point. Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and I'm joined by Lisa Flamino Rush and BZ Rieger. And what? Oh no, you can't hear me again?
That's better.
Oh, okay. I'm having some microphone issues this evening for some reason. And so, who wants to explain why we were looking down our shirts? BZ, I think you should, because you started it. You started it.
Did I start it? No, you started it.
Well, on camera, you started it.
Oh, okay. Well, I started with the name. The name.
Yeah.
Dagnabit is my heart open? I can't tell. Sometimes there's not enough light.
That's right.
Is it open? I don't know.
Well, and I'm really glad we're doing this conversation. It's because sometimes I have a hard time figuring that out. You know, I mean, I really do. It's very subtle. I know, getting in there, right, and staying there. That's sometimes a trick, even if I know I'm in there. Yeah, staying in there. Well, I don't know. See, because now I don't even know if I've ever really been in there. So help us out. Talk to me about this.
Okay, so one of the things that it's helpful to start with is ways to know that your heart is closed. Because when your heart is open, it's expansive and you're flowing, and the last thing that you're thinking about is my heart closed. Because you're big, you're flowing, you're joyful, you're engaged with all manner of different things, and it's not even on your radar. So to take that one more, are there a lot of times during the day that you're feeling good and you're doing whatever you're doing, whatever you're, connecting with Lisa, connecting with yourself, musings, whatever it is, here, laughing, looking down your shirt, whatever it is, right? Okay. And you're not even thinking about it. Is that fair to say that happens?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then a lot of those times a day, your heart is absolutely open.
Okay. Okay. So
it's not
just
even on your radar.
Yeah, when you were talking about that just a moment ago, I had a flash of, because this happens all the time, you might be in a store or something and somebody's got an attitude because there's a line, and it's not, I mean, I don't want to, it almost sounds like a judgment, but it kind of feels like, because I don't feel like that. Even when I'm in a hurry, I always don't feel like I'm in a hurry. Now, I'm not trying to compare myself to anybody. I'm trying to figure it out for myself.
Okay, so let's put that story aside for a second, and let's just rattle off some things that if you're doing something, it's a good indication that your heart's closed. So if you're if you're fearful about something, your heart is closed. And we'll get to the big umbrella why of that in a moment, okay? I just want to kind of a picture.
Okay.
If you're really frustrated and to use part of your story, like there's somebody else in line and was waiting and you're really frustrated and you're kind of working yourself up and you're doing, okay, your heart's closed. Okay. If you're constantly worrying that your heart's not open, you're not doing it right, and got to do more work, I'm not doing enough, your heart's closed. Okay. So fear, being scared, being really angry, a whole host of things. Now, and I'm going to put a programming note here because sometimes people have the thought,
Now
oh my God, I got angry. And my heart's closed, and oh no, I'm not going to get on the ship or be on the 5-lane highway when the event comes down or whatever it is. No, that's actually not the case, because if you stay angry, like you are righteously angry and you are pissed off and you're pissed off at everybody, and the next day you're pissed off and you pick up right where you left off in your pissed offness, and you magnify your pissed offness, and you call and raise the next one on the next level, and so like you get into it and this is going on. Okay, that's a really good example that your heart is closed. If, however, something happens and it just really makes you see red, just on the pissed off, and you're pissed off, and it just, there's an itch between your shoulder blade, and you just, right? If you take a moment and go, wow, I am so pissed off right now. I am righteously pissed off. And whatever you're doing at work, wherever it is you take a bathroom break, take a cigarette break, take your coffee break, whatever the normal bullshit breaks that are, I don't take most of them, so I just call them that way. And you have a pissed off break, and you just look at it, and you can spend time after just seeing it, maybe write something down, however you do it to process things. Think about it, feel into it, whatever it is, and go, okay, wow, I am righteously pissed off. Fascinating. I wonder what that is. So play with it. You can be righteously pissed off, hopping mad, up and down, seeing red, blowing your top, all the euphemisms that go with that. Okay, great. Then you're good playing with it. You're really getting into the game. And work through what it is that is causing you to feel that way. Don't feel bad that you feel that way. It'd be probably helpful if you don't vomit your pissed offness on a whole bunch of other people around you, because then you got other things you got to move on. But look at it. And sometimes it may take you, a couple minutes, a couple hours, maybe a day or two. But if you're consciously looking at it to move through all the layers of what it was that's in there, that's integration. So you're not actually, the signature frequency of that vibration of the pissed offness is actually exploring the genesis of the pissed offness, which is different than just being ragingly pissed off and stuck there, and anyone who comes near, even if it's a puppy and a kitten and they go meow hi and want to lick your face, and you turn and you're ragingly pissed off at them, okay, that's not integrating. That's just the poor kitten and puppy get pissed on when you're pissed off. So there's a process to integration. And if it takes you, sometimes it takes people a bit of time, because they go through it and they say, okay, well, something happened, and it's not, I could look at it and say it's out there, but I'm working on knowing that it comes from me. Okay. So something happened, and you kind of go through it, and you can go through it in your mind. You can draw, you can diagram, you can do all sorts of things. People do all different things. You can do it when you're out meditating. You can do it when you're at work. You can do it, there's no excuse where you can't do it. You're just working on it, little pieces of it. And again, not to be attached to, are you doing it right? Just playing with it. Mm-hmm. And you may sometimes people come to think, oh, okay, good, I got that all settled. And then it's almost like, sometimes you get a thorn in your finger and you thought you pulled it out, but you brush your hand against something, you're like, oh, wow. Yeah. So it could be that there's another little piece there. Oh, okay, great. All right, well, that's a sliver of pissed offness here or whatever. And so again, you play it. So you're going through. And in doing all that, you're integrating that. It could be something that just happened. It could be body awareness and memories from something that happened a long time ago in this lifetime. It can be that you're resolving because all of you is imploding into you. One of your other selves is coming in, and that was the thing. So no, you don't have to know that it was at, for Quasac time on Alpha Centauri, in the year, O Katsugi, that this happened. You don't need to, that's the linear way to do it. Just playing with it and looking with it. And sometimes it can be ancestral in your line. Sometimes it can be collective. So there's lots of different things, and people are clearing on all different levels.
Yes.
But that's just
we've not really talked about that before, BZ. I'm glad you're bringing this up, actually. We've not really actually talked about the fact that as we are integrating all of this with ourselves, all these aspects, these different aspects that are imploding, bring up things for us to view. And that's where a lot of these come from. And you make a very good point that it's not really all that integral to know exactly where or how or all of that. But that is, I don't know, for me, being able to see that from a more expanded view like that, to see that, that feels a little bit detached, which I think is a good thing, because we like to put everything out here, right? So we could see it, so we can eyeball it. I'm guilty of this. I want to eyeball everything. Mm-hmm. And so if I have that righteous, pissed off moment you're talking about, and first of all, the bottom line I hear in all of that is, ask yourself a question. Anytime, for me, that's how it started for me, period. With all of this, was asking myself a couple of questions anytime I had a visceral reaction. Could be any kind of visceral reaction. The visceral does not always mean anger or frustration or other things. It's just heightens anything kind of. So I wanted to know, okay, what's this about, kind of thing. And so this, okay, I'm sorry, that's just opened up a huge bit for me. As those aspects are beginning to be integrated, that's where some of the memories come from, isn't it? That just came in.
Yeah, memories would not be actually the correct thing, but
right. So I know that's a more of a linear thing. But
let's write that down, and we'll do that as another, because it's not like this is a tiny subject that we're playing with right now.
I'm sorry. I got this huge packet just now that's like, I'm sorry. That's a programming issue. Scratch that. I am not sorry. I apologize for the interruption of this, but wow. Whatever that was feels huge. So thank you for this whole conversation.
So whatever the emotion is, and we generally, anything that's more on the from just, slightly irritated to all the way, through the other side. So emotions that are more constricting, that are not, any emotion that is exhibiting itself as not expansive and in a full stream of love, then those are the ones to look at. And again, you integrate it. So as you're doing that integration, and asking questions is good. One of the things that I used to do, I thought, okay, well, since I like to play with everything, because I wasn't raised playing, so that was a really good place to start, because it was the antithesis of. So I would, if something made me mad, or I thought I was being stupid, or whatever it was, I would play it up really big. I mean, I would go out in the yard, or I would go in a closet, or I would go, wherever the circumstances were, and I would get, if I was going to be righteously pissed off, well, boy, I was going to do a bang up job doing it. And for me, I mean, I was really good. And, paint may have been peeling from the walls and a few other things. But after maybe a minute or two, I'm busting a gut laughing, at the ridiculousness of it, at how really good I was at peeling the paint off the wall from being righteously pissed off. And so that itself changed a lot of the frequency of that, which again let me look at things a little bit more. So I wanted to go back to where we opened up a whole other big subject. That sometimes it may take a couple of go-throughs, the splinter or thorn in your paw, to go back. And so if that happens, don't think, well, criminy, I already thought I dealt with this, righteously pissed off bugger, right, and now I got to do it again. Well, okay, so that's a good indication your heart is closed because you're frustrated with yourself. You're disrespecting yourself. Well, we touched on all these things, and I have to laugh because even though we talked about a lot of this stuff, we barely, even ones that are an hour or something long, barely scratched even a few infinitesimal with a big magnifying microscope, of that thing, because there's lots of stuff to it, and as you play with one thing, it opens it more, and then you shift and your perspective widens, and so you can see more. And of course, and the other way to say the exactly same thing is that just even passing the thought of it, we've covered it all and it's all done, and okay, well, we're done with that. And both are absolutely correct, and so people are going, no, don't do that. Okay, well, that was a good call. See you later.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I'm still back over there.
Anyway, so sometimes it can be that, once you're looking at it to integrate it and not worrying that, oh my gosh, I've done it wrong, I'm mad, I'm not supposed to be mad, I'm only supposed to be fluffy.
I don't know what's going on with your microphone again, but we can barely hear you. And so I will ask you to repeat it. She always says like that, like that's going to help.
Yeah.
So being frustrated, if it takes another little go around, can you hear me?
It's a little bit better. It just came up just a little bit. Just then.
Wake up. Listen.
I know she just pictured my head right then. Listen. Oh, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. That's what it Sorry.
It's apparently been a wild day for all three of us, and of the very linear sort. So we're integrating the day, and this is how
that's right.
Yes, sans wine, for crap's sake. I don't even know why that was.
Well, humor is a wonderful way for me to cope, because when like BZ said, I know that my heart is closed when I'm angry or anxious. So I like to laugh. That is the quickest way for me to open my heart, is to start laughing.
Absolutely.
I will look for humor in absolutely, ask Sheila, in absolutely everything.
Hence play. No matter what it is, I say, hey, let's play with that,
Yeah.
Listen, there's a reason that the ringtone on my phone for every one of the Rush family is a drunk chipmunk that is laughing.
Yeah, that didn't come across too well, but okay.
And no, well, that's what it's called when you look for it in the, ringtones, drunk chipmunk. I've also seen
that may be something she needs to integrate, that someone's insinuating that she sounds like a drunk chipmunk.
All I can tell you is this. This past Friday, yeah, but let me just say this because this is how great this kind of thing actually, because it actually applies to this too. I'm in the water company paying a bill. And you know, those kind of places, they're not the happiest kind of places anyway, right? It's a city and it's at City Hall. And I'm standing in line and all of a sudden my Lisa's ringtone goes off and it changed the frequency in the whole place. Everybody started laughing. I said, oh, and I said, she said, oh, that's so cute. And I said, thank you. I think so too. And I, of course, had to tell the story that it's because my friend makes me laugh so hard that I chose that. So, yeah, it is. Sometimes laughter can just change the whole frequency.
It actually always does.
Yeah.
Not sometimes, always.
Well, it has in our case, that's for certain.
Yep.
So, I forgot where we were going with this. So,
I'm sorry.
So, integrating different things, and sometimes it can be done very quickly. Especially, it can be done. You can exacerbate the effortlessness with which you can integrate something by realizing that you're integrating it, and that it's okay to have whatever feeling, whole hog, full throttle, full bore, right?
Yeah.
And not have to worry, oh my gosh, oh, I did it wrong, you know? But you're just not, it's not your constant dance partner. It's
That's
not,
right.
you know, you're not bedmates with it all the time, right? So it's something that you're looking at and you're playing with, and you move through it. And what happens, everything is a frequency, has a frequency vibration to it. So if you're talking about anger or frustration or something like that, when you're constantly doing the rope-a-dope of those things, when everything seems to piss you off, or everything seems to frustrate you, or everything seems to make you afraid, you know, sometimes people say, well, I'm nervous to do that, or I'm afraid to do that, or I don't want to do that. And so it's exacerbating your propensity to think that you're small.
Yeah.
So what you're doing, because you're a creator being, that's the predominant frequency vibration that you're holding, that you're emitting, that you're residing in, that you're playing in, that you're doing it. And you know, unless you really like doing that, it's fair to say you're doing it unconsciously. And what that does is that is you're setting up what you're creating, you know, out there. So nothing's wrong. Nothing has gone awry. You're just really good at being a kick-ass creator being. And since all the world is a stage and you are the director, you're orchestrating this, and all of life is falling over backwards to say, absolutely, you got it. You got it. No, we got more. Okay, bigger. Okay, great. Okay. And you in the chair going, you know,
I hope I don't get any better.
right, what is going on? Now I was afraid and nervous. Now I'm friggin' terrified, you know. Right? Because it's all your reality is a response to your vibrational signature. It's a response to it. It's not out there first. It's a response to it. So that's why you want to integrate. Now, so the way that you kind of decode things that are happening with you to you.
Blow on your microphone again.
Things that are going on with you in your life, you're decoding that. And so you've created something and you're looking at that and you're having a response to that. So you're decoding, it's kind of a feedback. You're decoding the feedback that comes to you. And if you go, oh, cool, or, I really didn't like that, I'm going to, erase the board, I'm going to do over here. That's integration. That's a playful way, but that's integration because I noticed it and said, wow, what was I thinking when I ordered that? No, I'm good, thanks. I'm okay. That was a good experience, right? That's integration. But when you're just stuck on the nail biting because you're getting nervous all the time, you're getting feedback to that. And because you're not in integration, because you're in full on perpetuating what that frequency is, you're getting more feedback, which is freaking you out more, which is fearing you more, which is giving you agoraphobia or anything else, as you go forward, right?
Yes.
Right. And as we discussed in a prior video, the longer that is perpetuated, it's not good for the being at all.
No. You're locking it in.
Right. Yeah.
And especially right this moment and henceforward, all moments, the frequencies are such that's actually a way to just, you could picture a huge centrifugal force machine and it's just going to fling all the parts of you out because they cannot match, they cannot reside, they cannot survive in this frequency.
Right.
So that would seem to be got off on a long side there, but so how do you know if your heart is open? Well, one way to start with, as I said, is to look at things that let you know that the heart is closed. Okay. Now, closed and locked down tight, again, is a spectrum of variation, and you can tell that. If someone says something to you, that is more of a expansive thought, it could be on any topic, and you go, no, I don't believe it. No, it's just no. Okay, well, that your heart is closed because you're not willing to just even try on within yourself. Forget them. I'm not talking, you don't need, you're the expert for you. But you're not even allowing yourself to be yourself and to be the expert. That's a pretty closed heart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the first things is so again, play with this and think, okay, well, are there, notice, if you haven't noticed already, but noticing and playing will get you a long way. Notice, in just in a short time, in an hour, are there, how many times do you get frustrated? Or how many times are you, adamant, stuck on some particular focus or situation or something? And I can't do that. I'm waiting for this to happen. When this happens, I can't wait to have, whatever it is. Again, there's variations of that. And that will give you an idea. Now, that doesn't mean that in that hour span, let's say we'll say 8 times you notice you picked one thing or a couple things, 8 times. Okay. So now, unless they were 8 times and they were, an hour divided by 8, maybe you had 2 things. Okay. So the in-between times, you could just play with this, or I'm trying to break it down in a very linear way, which gives me a headache, to really be ad nauseum about breaking this down. So now in this, we'll stay with this for a minute. So in this 60-minute thing, you picked, let's say, one thing.
Okay.
And in the 60 minutes, you noticed that whatever you picked, so we'll say frustration, okay? And you noticed that you were frustrated or had frustration within you about whatever it was, didn't even have to be the same thing, 5 times in 60 minutes. Okay, so that's a good thing that's showing you points of integration. Now, not just frustration at this particular thing, but frustration in general, because it's always, not usually, always about something within you and the way you're interacting with something. Forget anybody, anything, anything outside of it. So there could be a particular metaphor that was, like that person was the metaphor for the frustration right at the moment. And then the car didn't start quite right. So that was a metaphor for that frustration right there. They're just metaphors, because wherever you go, there you are. And so there's something the way you're interacting with that. Okay. So, but you had, what did I say? 6 times? I forgot.
5 times, but
5
that's
times.
okay.
So 5 times. So that's the 60 minutes. Now, like I said, they're not, 17.5 seconds each time that you were frustrated. So there was space in between. Okay, so then play for a minute. Well, what was going on in the space in between? Were you laughing? Were you, play with that. So then you can say, because instead of saying, well, gosh, I'm always frustrated and my heart's never open because it must be closed. Well, hang on. If we're being linear, let's be linear, okay? Let's be specific. And let's, specificity and particularity, and let's take this 60-minute window and break that sucker down. It's 60 minutes. I can't write off the rest of the 38 minutes because my allotted frustration, only took up X number of minutes. So what happened to the rest of the 38 minutes? No, you can't blow that off. That's, you wanted to be linear in particular. Let's look at it. Okay. Right? So on the one hand, I'm playing with it. And on the other hand, I'm being absolutely dead serious. Because I came from very right brain and very left brain and very linear focus and very logistics and all that kind of stuff. And this is how I had to get out of that box. Talk about boxes. I had lots of boxes, and most of them were not pretty. So that's how I got out of those boxes. I thought, okay, if you're so stuck on this, then get on it. Don't be half-assed about it. Let's do this 100%. So then you can break it down, and you can go, okay, well, wait a minute. I could say out of the 60 minutes, I spent 20 of those being frustrated. Well, gosh, that's a lot. I mean, that can't be good. And how am I going to catch the event and all this kind of stuff? Okay. Except 60 minus 20 leaves 40. So for 40 minutes, I wasn't frustrated at all. Well, gosh darn it, that's pretty cool. Right? So sometimes you need to just actually go, this ridiculous could be as ridiculousness, or it could be for some people a real eye-opener because they never noticed that they were only looking at this pie slice over here and forgot about the really cool pie slice over here. Maybe there was a magical moment that you looked at the tree, or you had the kiss of the wind or the sun on your face, and for that nanosecond, it may have only seemed like a nanosecond, so you remember, this is one of those, maybe you're puffing off the rest of the 40 minutes. There's something, right? Because you're only focusing over here. And you're what? You're a kick-ass creator being. And you're what? You're not small. And you're what? You're amazingly powerful. Uh-oh. All those things. And in just a 60-minute cycle, I spent all that energy, all that passionate, focused concentration and awareness energy on that 20 minutes of the frustration. I see.
Well, when I started looking at things differently, it for just playing with looking at things differently, period.
Yes.
It shifts something. When okay, this is cool. I decided I wasn't going to take myself so seriously. And if I was going to take myself so seriously, then I needed to look a little deeper into the things that seemed so serious.
Excuse me, stop it.
You know, and notice I said seemed so serious. But yeah, in your example there, BZ, just shifting the focus from realizing, because that's actually only 1/3 of the time that was spent on frustration. 2/3 of the time was spent doing something else. And I would be willing to bet that if we're talking about someone who is actually examining themselves when things like that happen, at least part of that 2/3 time was probably spent asking oneself at least one question, mm-hmm. and shifting that focus in and of itself at that point, I'm thinking.
Well, yeah, and what it brings up, and that's why I kind of went over the top in that illustration, is because you go, okay, what's she on about now, and get off it. But because that's what we do.
Well, that's another.
20 minutes describing this thing, which is not really a big deal. Although if you're stuck in this, it's a really big frickin' deal.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say here. For me, just now when you were saying that, there's this big. Okay, so if we've spent 20 minutes being frustrated, we can't take 5 or 10 minutes to take a look at why. Ask ourselves the question, why? And if, like you said, what's she on about? Well, that's a programming mechanism I sense there that says you're not worth the time to figure it out. Just sit down, shut up, and don't ask silly questions, you know, kind of thing. That's what that felt like. When, you know, it kind of goes back to us actually disrespecting ourselves in a manner of doing that when we do that, I think. And yes, I get it. I mean, that's something that all of us, we've kind of programmed each other and that sort of thing, but we can, it's not easy sometimes, but it's that looking at it, I think, has helped me.
And what you and I are both saying is that it's a very good example of it's simple. Mm-hmm. Opening your heart is simple.
Yeah.
Okay? That's not what I said in the other video, but now I am absolutely saying, hang on, opening your heart is simple. Sometimes is it excruciatingly difficult? You bet. You bet. But we are the ones who make it excruciatingly difficult.
Well, you're right about that. The reason I started laughing right away when you said that is that for me, see, that's, oh, wow. Because I get frustrated behind this even with my own self. And so, you know, there's still work I need to do on that. But I feel the same way whenever I talk to anybody about water. It's so simple. It sounds so simple, and folks just don't believe it, that it's that important. It's the same thing. For me, what you're saying right here, it's the exact same thing. It is so simple that it couldn't possibly work. Right. Never mind. Oh, why don't we give it a try? Why don't we give it, you know, a good try and see about it? But yeah, okay, wow, that was.
Well, and that brings up a good point, whether it's water or laughter or noticing, all things very simple and actually not that excruciatingly difficult to do. But again, it's what are you worth? And at a certain point, okay, well, some frames I might say right from the get-go, but at a certain point, you've lost your pass to complain or bemoan about something that you're not choosing to do something about. Well, you can go off in your own closet or space or whatever, but if you're wanting to play with something and Forget about anybody else. They've all disappeared. And something is drawing your attention. So my guess is that you're being prompted from your soul to go, you know, things keep showing up in various ways, you know, on your consciousness threshold. And you're being prompted to look at it. That would be an integration when if you're having such a big push me, pull you fight with that, then that's something to look at. And you know, you don't have to do any of this. Regardless of what the system tells you and everything else, you don't have to do anything. It's all a choice. It's absolutely all a choice. And yes, you can say, oh, but that's not true. I have to do. No, it's a choice. So what do you choose? And that would be, you know, a really good way to play with opening your heart. What do I choose? I'm going to give myself permission for just 20 minutes, okay? We've lowered the threshold, but gone from an hour, we're just 20 minutes. I'm going to give myself permission every day for 20 minutes to do something that I want to do something that feels delicious, to do something that is fun or outrageous, or, you know, you may come up with a different word every day. So maybe you get the word of the day, and for 20 minutes you do that. So again, that's a great way that you can play with it. And for those 20 minutes, and I absolutely guarantee you, even if you have 3 jobs and, you know, 20 kids and an annoying husband or wife or partner or whatever, you can find 20 minutes in there, okay? And if you can't, then you're not willing, then you're not worth enough. Not because I said it, because you said it. And again, that's a choice. So anyways, go back to the 20 minutes a day and play. And for 20 minutes, play. You can go outside, you can be inside, you can be in all sorts of places. It doesn't have to cost you a lot of money, because your imagination is an amazing thing, and it's actually how you create things. You see previous videos and ones we'll get to, plus all the other material already out there. And say, okay, well, I'm going to forget about, is my heart open, is my heart not open, and yada, yada, yada. And for a week, just 20 minutes a day, I'm going to pick, you know, a word or a feeling a day, and I'm going to absolutely give myself permission for 20 minutes. Set a timer, you know, lest your smarmy is messing with you that you can't. No, the timer will ring me, so I'll get back to the real world, you know. And play with that and be creative. Be as playful and creative as you can, and give yourself permission. And if you're thinking, wow, 20 minutes a day. Okay, then for the first couple of times, you're going to have to just, because it's a muscle you're not used to using. Have you ever been sick, or maybe you know, had an arm in a cast or something, or broke your leg, and it took you a while to retrain the muscles to use it, right? Well, these are muscles you haven't used. They're called, you know, inspiration and joy and free will choice and all that kind of stuff. And we're so in those boxes that Sheila has been noticing more and more, and we don't notice them. That's the other thing. So play with it, because in that, and really give it, you know, an absolute honest, do as if like someone's, you know, if you need to, and it depends where you are, that someone's, you know, kind of taking notes on how well you're doing this 20-minute thing, you know. So really give it a good, really put some inspiration into it. And the reason I'm going on to it, it just seems that there's a lot of beings out there today that on various different ways are kind of on something, whatever that something is. And it's all coming up now that they're kind of noticing for the very first time that that's something that they're on, whatever it is. And they may not have thought, they might have thought it was a great something that they're on, but it's becoming more light is shining on, and it's becoming apparent to them that they were doing that either as a barrier or to the exclusion of, or various ways you can put that. And it was kind of misting, blocking their ability to kind of feel and sense and know other things. So anyways, just that's a tool to just play with that and see what comes up, and you'll build some muscles that way. And you know, some of the best ways to open your heart, well, that's a really good tool to do that, because you're playing and it's only 20 minutes and you can't get it wrong, and you can never get it done, because you can always open your heart more and more and more. You can always do things that are expansive and fun. You can always do things that are exciting. You know, you don't have to, for me, if I had 20 minutes and I was really tired and it was the end of the day and it's been one corker of a day, and I was doing, which I think I may, and I was doing this exercise, I would just go out and stand, either hug a tree or just notice and feel and pet. There's a beautiful blue spruce out here. The needles and the arms, you know, of the tree, and just simply notice it. You know, it's 2 feet out the door. I don't have to use any gas. There's no time. I can do it even with a flashlight. You know, all those kinds of things. So there's no excuses. But one of the things that opens your heart too is to, this phrase, to be subject to one another, whether it's the tree, and I'm petting the tree, and the tree is petting me, or the air. You can do it with other people, you can do it with animals, you can do it all sorts of ways. But we discount so many things that maybe it's not complicated enough or arduous enough, or, okay, that sounds wacky, so I mean, I've got to open my heart so that I can raise my vibrations, so that I can be more expansive, so that I can shift and go to everything that's changing. And that's so huge, and something so laughable and insignificant and mundane. How could that possibly get me there? It's the fastest way to get you. It's the fastest way.
I can see why it's been so difficult for me in particular, but I would say for all. And that is because it feels to me like the moment we begin to teach each other the rules here, which really are all kind of screwed up and half-assed, made up and wrong, and, you know, BS from jump, but we don't know that, and neither did anybody else. Well, some people did, but well, that's another show altogether. But at every turn, it seems like the whole idea is to have to give things for the brain to figure out, right? So I'm viewing some of this as the issue. For me, it has been.
The brain?
Yes, the brain, because, yes. And the brain.
As quick as you can lose your mind, the heart will go, bang, open.
Well, exactly right. And so I think that's why it's been a tough haul, you know, for me, and I'm sure for lots of others. I mean,
and you don't become stupid when you lose your mind.
No, I'm not in any way, shape, or form stupid.
You become more of the stuff that people hold in such high regard, you know, with a learned mind or a highly intellectual, you know, the actual trueness of it. You possess far more of that. You just don't possess it in the very limited totally misrepresented things, ways that, you know, we were sold the bill of goods on.
Yeah. I think the biggest bottom line for me in all of this, and the best advice I could ever say to anyone, is just open your mind. That was the absolute first step. I know that the whole goal is to get rid of the mind, but in my case, we all know that wasn't going so easy. And I think that's the case for a lot of us. Okay, so, but just the desire to open the mind and consider something. Again, I've said that a lot of times. It's not like you're asking something to get married or, you know, sign a contract in blood or anything. No, you're looking into a concept. You're considering something.
Well, there's the cosmic humor, because people have been doing all that other stuff right, left, and sideways without giving it a blink or paying any attention.
Right.
I know.
If you don't think you have been, well, I can absolutely assure you there's evidence everywhere that's showing you have. And yet you're not willing to open to, and you know, you can close it right back up again, get, you know, 20 minutes.
Well, that's what I said. It just has to be open to consider a thing. I'm just saying that there's, for me, that was the first step. It feels to me like if a person's willing to that for me, oh wow, well, it really was a very first step, because without that, it wouldn't. I mean, nothing can get in at all. So
yeah, it was for me too. I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, so the first thing I had to do was open my mind. Yeah, well, that's valid.
Yeah, and I think that's the same. I know the witness story is one that, you know, a lot of folks have, and you know, a lot of folks that, you know, kind of walked away from all kinds of different, you know, belief systems. Yeah. So yeah, that is one thing. But there's, you know, there's lots of folks out there that still, you know, they don't have a regular gig they're going to, religious wise or whatever.
Right.
But still have this very, oh, well, that can't possibly be because, you know, the government said so, or the CDC says so, or the FDA says so, or
right.
You know, my teacher said so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, well, I mean, instead of, you know, just being open to considering other points of view altogether.
Mm-hmm.
There, and I do think that there's a lot more, it feels like, folks that are doing that across the board, maybe. But I don't know. In this moment of now, I feel very grateful that I was so, every time I want, with you even, BZ, the very first time I talked to you, I used to look at my propensity to jump straight to the fantastical as a bad thing. Now, not so much. I honestly, I really don't feel like that's a bad thing at all.
No, it's not.
Not for me.
I want to play a little bit with not only how do you open your heart, but what does it feel like? So everybody's going to be different the way they describe that, but it feels delicious. It feels sublime. And, you know, and this is nothing to scare one away from, but if you have had your heart locked down and closed for a long time, forever in this particular lifetime, when you start to open your heart, you will have really cool, wonderful sensations, but you will have some discomfort because the area of your heart area, your high heart area, is having to actually restructure itself. I don't know if anybody is, you know, familiar, if they've had and the name just flew out of my head. But if you had stitches, or if you kind of tore a ligament, or banged up your knee or ankle and it was swollen, and so you'll have there's little webs. They look actually like spider webs, white cottony spider webs within your joints and all sorts of things. Where, and the name has just gone out of my head again. I should have said it as soon as it popped back.
You're talking about the cartilage?
No, it's adhesions.
Oh, okay.
Okay, whether it's from surgery, it could be in your subcutaneous level, just within the skin and the fascia. Right. It can be around things.
Yeah, I have quite a bit.
So, I mean, you could just not use your arm, not move your arm. If you had your arm, you know, so my arm is bent like this, and I'm not moving it for a while, and I don't raise this, and because I banged it, and I, you know, kind of, you know, it doesn't take you very long that you can't do it anymore. You cannot move it because of adhesions. Adhesions have grown in there, and it's knitted itself, you know, like the big giant white cottony spider web, and you can't move it. So the reason I bring that up is that we've all been beautifully trained and indoctrinated and programmed. I mean, just in the most amazing, spectacular, really very clever ways. And I say that with all seriousness. I mean, some have been horrible, some have been clever, some have been outrageous, some have been disgusting, you know, all different things. But again, in that trajectory going out, the magnificence and the magnitude of that. Anyways, what that has caused is lots of, you could say, and this is metaphoric, and you could find that it's actually literal as well, but there are adhesions in your heart space, especially in your high heart space. And when you start to open the heart, when you start to notice, when you start to play, when you start to open your mind, when you start to consider different things, when you just start to say, okay, well, I know I'm still right, but I'm going to, BZ had this silly idea, but I'm going to step over here and look at it from another, I'm not going to stay here, I'm not going to agree with it, but I'm going to look over here. So you do all those things. Those are little different techniques to open the heart. And I do want to make a point of saying, you've mentioned, you know, you've seen Sheila going, you know, she's got this stuff going on, the trucks are moving in. But if you've never felt that, when you do have heart openings, and sometimes you can have a heart opening and you won't feel it, but when you really have, the way I would hold it is that when you have a heart opening that, you know, it's opened, and so if it was like this wide and it went to this wide, so my hands did move a little bit, and it's now staying there, so it just wasn't a brief thing, but it's moved and it's now locked in, and it won't get any smaller than that again. In that case, there will be moving trucks, because actually energetically, physically, and on a real frequential level, your heart has now opened. And in order for it to do that and lock in, you will have some discomfort. Now, if you're someone who can feel into a headache or discomfort, whatever it is, and you're comfortable with that, or you do homeopathic things or whatever, or if you're big on doctors, great. Whatever you feel moved to do, go and do whatever you feel moved to do. But I would ask, please, that you don't let that stop you from continuing to open your heart, because once you start to realize how delicious it is and all of the ramifications, and they are legion, and they are absolutely spectacular, that come from opening your heart even a little bit, and when you're locking it to that next little bit open and you have the moving trucks come in, it's worth it, because that joy and that absolute wonder that you feel with that is so delicious. And a momentary, you know, whatever just doesn't even come on your radar.
No, you're right. It doesn't. I mean, I was very glad, just like with everything else that I've, you know, researched and gained knowledge about in on my path. And what I'm talking about here is things like, you know, astrology and the Sabian symbols and tarot and things like that. For me, being aware that the opening of my heart is part of this issue that I have had. It's just it made it easier for me, and in other words, knowing that up front for me, and I really wasn't able to feel into it at first, and know that that's what it was. I've never had any heart issues. I've had lots and lots and lots of health issues, but never any heart issues. And so just kind of knowing that that can happen up front, I think is good. I'm glad that we put that in here. And I was gonna, yeah, because the truth of it is too, for me, when I've felt into it as well, there's also something else. When you say restructured, it is a physical restructuring that's going on, I think.
I know it's a physical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, to our hearts, because there's lots of different things happening to our bodies. I mean,
yeah, everything is being restructured. Yeah. Absolutely everything. Everything, every cell, every molecule, every organ, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I can point to that article about the largest organ in the body that, oops, they apparently didn't know about. I'm sorry. That one for me was like, okay, that's kind of out there. You got to know that's what that is. I feel like, to me, that was just change much, you know. Not that the largest organ in the body, and they're just now finding it. Sure, okay.
And larger than the skin, which is, you know, prior to this, was the largest organ.
I know.
And, you know, how big are you and how much skin you got? So
yeah,
and that's smaller than the other way.
I know. So
I would say, to close this energetic envelope here, is play with it. It's on the one hand, it's more delicious than you can possibly imagine, even if your heart has been opening, even if you have been having expansion, even if you have been having experiences, you ain't seen nothing yet. You know? And give yourself a break.
Well, I got to say this too.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to throw this in. You're right. Give yourself a break. Noticing is fun, by the way.
Yes.
I have to say, noticing is so much fun. And leads to so much joy and so much more. That for me, the noticing has been so much fun, and so easy to do. I mean, it's just paying attention, focus and attention to what I've been feeling a lot like, you know, I mean, I really have grasped the fact that I mean, I know we all say it, antennas, you know, we're antennas, we're receivers and emitters and all that, but grasping the magnitude of what that means, that noticing is what's helped me see that. So I just want to say that. Well, was there anything else that either one of you would like to add to this one?
Go whistle up some moving trucks and...
Yeah, I was going to say, she said as the moving trucks are...
Yeah.
Yeah, well, would you like me to tell you what I think I noticed on this one?
What?
I think I do know. I think I am more in my heart than I am not. And I'm going to own that right now.
Oh, okay.
Very
Yay!
much, girl.
Long time, Keegan. So you mean all the other stuff was just bullshit? Yeah.
Yes and no. I mean, no, I mean, no, honestly, there's, you know what it is, what it was, I think, trusting myself, first of all, that, because there's that whole, well, are you, are you, kind of thing, there's this, I know Smarmy's still up in there, you see. So I'm aware that is, that's could be part of that whole.
I can edit, so I'm going to cut that part and go back to the celebratory about what Sheila said. And
well, yes, I mean I'm serious. This one actually has helped me see what I've been doing for myself, what I've not, what I haven't been owning.
And what have you been owning?
That I'm in my heart most of the time. So.
And how big is the moving truck that just pulled up?
Yeah, it was pretty.
Okay.
Yes.
Point well made.
That's why I had to own it. I don't think I was going to be allowed to leave if I hadn't owned it. So all the usual things in all the usual places. And if you have any comments or questions, emails are all available there too. And we love you guys. Until next time.
Much love.